Hey guys, it's Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies bringing you another painting tutorial. This time it's the first Dark Eldar painting video on the channel. I honestly don't know how I've gone 150 videos so far without having a Dark Eldar video added into the channel. They are one of my favorite ranges of miniatures, and so I'm delighted to bring this one to you. Obviously this one is a conversion. I'm not going to show you any of the making of him or anything like that. I did that over on my Twitch stream a couple months back, so if you ever want to see stuff like that, I stream on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday between 8 and 10 in the evening, Irish time, whatever that is. The purpose of painting this video is twofold. One is to obviously get this guy who's the general of a new studio army, who's going to feature in some upcoming battle reports, painted and ready to rock and roll. And two, to showcase something a little different, something that I get a lot of questions on, and I'm hopeful that this will answer a couple of those. And what that is I will explain at the end of the video, so you have to stick around to the end to find out what I'm talking about there. I just want to thank you guys for the continued support for me and the channel. Obviously we are growing in leaps and bounds every week, and you guys make that all possible. If you guys want to see me continue to grow and continue to keep this channel alive, the best way for you to support me is to pledge a couple of euros over on Patreon. Helps keep the lights on and help keeps the paint flowing. So if you're interested in supporting me, there's links below to that. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay guys, this is the custom Archon that I was telling you guys about in the intro. It's basically Drazar's body, and then all the other parts are taken from our Raveners. So the head, sword and pistol are all taken from that kit, and just, you know, simple bit swap, and gave me this unique model. So I started by using Black Templar contrast on all of the fabric parts of this miniature. Now there are not very many fabrics parts, especially for his undersuit. There's just a bit behind his thigh armor, I believe his gloves, and in and around his neck gorget. He's like a neck seal, is the only places that I could find on the model. And I was using the 360 from the Games Workshop website to try and find any parts, and it was quite difficult, but I couldn't find any other than those. We then moved on to Turquoise to apply some color to the beautiful serrated, segmented Dark Eldar armor. Turquoise acts as an absolutely fantastic base coat for Dark Eldar armor, and I quickly applied that to absolutely all of this beautiful segmented plates. It was a real treat to see how it set on everything, and I could already kind of envision what the miniature was going to look like as I was moving past this step. And if you guys who've been following along with my journey know that this miniature was actually previously painted in a orange and black scheme. I moved away from that orange and black scheme. I wasn't happy with it, but I wanted to save the conversion. So I used this model as one of my examples on my Green Stuff World stripping paint videos. So I stripped it back to plastic, and then I got to paint it up again, which I'm doing now. After all the Turquoise was applied, the model looked something like this. And it was time to move over to Blood Angel's red contrast for all of the kind of detail work. So for me, those are things like all of the red ribbons, or all of the ribbons on this miniature for me are going to go nice and bright and red. And of course, his big feathery plume coming out of the top of his head is also going to go red for me. It's a very quick and easy step with contrast. In fact, all base coating steps are a breeze with contrast. It really has sped up my painting quite a lot. Like I said, I painted this miniature before. That's why this miniature was already based. And when I was stripping him, I actually just hobby sawed him off his base and stripped the miniature and then glued him back onto. So I left the scenic base all painted up on the base. Retribute Armor Gold was used for all of the metallic parts that were going to be gold. So all of the Eldar like cracked webway stones and stuff were all painted with a coat of gold. The casing on his weapons was also going to be painted in gold, and the hilt and pommel of his sword was also going to be painted with some of that gold. He's also got like ringlets around his ankles and stuff like that. They're all going to get a quick touch up of gold as well. From there, we're going to move with the Iron Hand Steel to base coat some of the other metallics on the miniature, which is really just the blade of the sword and then the center of all of the gems. So we're going to hit those gems with a contrast later on in this painting process to make them look like those gemstones, like we do with eye lenses and stuff in other videos. So we're going to take our time now and go into all those beautiful cracked gems and give them a quick coat of the silver as well. And when that's done, we should have something that looks similar to this. It's now time to shade that miniature down, lock in all those base coats. And for this, we're going to give a coat of the new thinned out Nuln Oil. Still not 100% sold on the new shades, but I don't think there's a point in me showing you guys tutorials from now on in using any of the old shades that you guys can't get anymore. I'm obviously going to be moving forward and showing you guys how to paint with paints that you can't get. So yeah, to that effect, this is the new Nuln Oil shade. And because this model has so many recesses on the serrated armor, it did sit quite nicely on the model and shaded it to a stage I'm quite happy with. Now it's time to start layering up this model again. And to start layering the Terradon Turquoise, I went for my trusty Sons of Horus green, and I went in and started layering the beautiful serrated armor. I actually quite enjoy the layering stage, especially for models that are kind of have this much broken up detail. It's very clear where highlights and stuff are supposed to go, and you can really see the paint job take shape in this stage. So that's why I like taking my time. For me, this is the most enjoyable part of painting. I've used to say for years now that once a model is base coated and washed, it's time to start painting the miniature, if you know what I mean. The base coats and washes are almost like prep work. Here's an example of the difference. You can see the right leg compared to the left leg. That little highlight is suddenly making that armor pop and gives me something that I'm super excited to work with. I still have to come up with a name for this guy. I've already got his backstory in my head. It's actually quite a cool one, and it's going to fit into the 365 campaign very, very well. But I struggle with names. I always do. Maybe you guys had any ideas for a cool name for this guy and you want to drop it in the comments below. That would help me out greatly. But yeah, I took my time. I layered up the armor, and this was the result. A beautiful kind of tealy green armor. And now it's time to start layering up the other parts. So I jumped over to Iron Hand Steel, and I'm going to use this to layer up all of the metallics, that is both the gold and the silver parts. If you've watched a bunch of my videos before, you know one of my favorite things to do is to kind of touch highlight gold with silver. And all I'm doing is putting a few dots of silver around the gold parts where highlights are going to sit. And it just turns that like washed down gold into a really nice old brass. Remember, this is an Eldar model. You might have owned that pistol for 2,000-3,000 years. So as beautiful and well constructed as it is, it's going to look slightly aged, maybe a little bit patinaed. It's going to look kind of like an antique in my head. So I much prefer those kind of brassy tones for that. I break my cardinal rule of mixing paint brands here to go for a bit of the titanium white color. The coverage on this titanium white is just so good. It's hard to use any other white over it, especially for little steps like this where I can just grab it and put it out. No mixing or anything is required. And for this, I went over the energy bulbs on the pistol and the coil that went up the center of the power sword. And I want it to be more like a venom blade, which is a Dark Eldar style weapon. So I'm going to hit this with the striking scorpion green now to kind of give it that venomy texture. I haven't really used this contrast an awful lot, so I wasn't sure what it was going to look like. So this was more of a kind of trial and error stage. I applied it to the energy bulbs on this and the center of the sword. I then kind of didn't like it that much on the center of the sword, so I thought it would look like great if I did it on the entire blade, so the whole center was kind of pulsing brighter, and then almost like the poison was leaching out onto the blade. I then thought this was a bit too extreme again, so I went back and feather highlighted back in the Iron Hand Steel, leaving the green kind of bleeding out from it. So that was kind of a best of both worlds. As you can see, this is it with just the energy coil. I was like, no, that looks a bit weird. Not really all that happy with that. It just didn't sit right. It looked kind of too messy. And then I put the green all over, which kind of looks cool, but it just doesn't sit that well next to the color armor that I went for. So after I've done this Talazar blue on all of the gemstones, this is going to give me that gemstone effect that I was looking for. Those wraith stones, cracked and broken, the souls inside long dead. This evil Dark Eldar Archon slaying his cousins. After that stage was done, which was super quick and efficient, it's one of my favorite ways to do kind of gems and eye lenses and stuff. I did do a quick extra layer on the sword, and then we moved into Mephiston Red. I choose to use the air one because it's basically like a pre-thinned paint. It's such high pigment that it goes on in a breeze. And we use this to highlight all of the ribbons and tassels across the miniature, and of course highlight that big beautiful red plume going across the Dark Eldar Lord's head. And with those steps done, this model is pretty much finished and ready to see the tabletop. It's actually a model that has been annoying me for quite a couple of months now, as like I said earlier in this video, he was painted orange and black. I didn't really like that scheme, and I thought I'd wasted this really cool conversion that I was quite proud of. Now that he is stripped, repainted, retouched up, and now sitting on my shelf with the beginnings of my new Dark Eldar Force, I am super pleased. So I guess with that, it's time for our grand reveal. Here he is rotating, all finished, all beastly, all ready to see the table and slay the enemies of Comera. What a beast. Okay guys, that brings the painting of this custom Dark Eldar Archon to a finish. It is ready to be placed at the head of my new force, and hopefully hit the tabletop sometime in the next couple of weeks. I said at the beginning of this video that I had a kind of an ulterior motive to this video that I wanted to share with you guys, and it is this. Painting this miniature is exactly the same, step for step, paint for paint, as my Sons of Horus painting scheme. I get asked over and over again, can I use this color scheme on this or that color scheme on this? Or I'll give people an example of like, how do I paint a plague bearer? Well, then they don't know how to paint a gray and clean one. I'm like, it's the same steps, just added to a bigger model, or the same, you know what I mean? So I think it's time for people to kind of broaden their horizons a little bit when it comes to this. A lot of people seem to have the blinkers on when they're watching these videos. Like, he is showing me how to paint a Dark Eldar miniature. Realistically, if you like the look of the jade armor, look at it like that. How to paint a jade armor scheme that I can apply to painting fantasy elves, or I don't know, Imperial Guard carapace if I like that armor so much. Try and see past the individual models that I'm painting and more at the colors that I'm using and how you can apply those to any miniature that suits you, if that makes sense. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure that you drop it a like. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, it would mean an absolute immense amount of stuff to me. Those were some words, I'm sure. It would mean an absolute ton to me if you would take 2 seconds out of your day and hit that subscribe button. It would help the channel grow even further and help me solidify this crazy run into full-time social media. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.